So I prefer for the lighter ones to be in front so that if, say, it's a bumpy landing or a rough landing that we land on our backs, that the lighter one is on top, not the other way around.
I'm your host Daryl, and it's time to clock in.
Hey guys, it's 5:30 in the morning and we've just arrived at the location where we're clocking in for today. Now, did you know that the first planes only took off in the 20th century? But humans have been taking to the skies well before that. How, you may ask? Why? With the clever use of hot air. So today we're going to be clocking in with Malaysia's first ever 2 female hot air balloon pilots, Atika and Izzati. Let's go clock in.
My name is Izzati Khairuddin. I am a hot air balloon pilot and I fly for My Balloon Adventure for 5 years. So what we do first, before the balloon can stand up, we fill in the balloon with cold air. So once the balloon is sort of fully inflated, then I will go behind the burner and then I will heat up the air inside the balloon. Hot air rises. So once the air inside is hot, then the balloon will stand up.
You don't actually fill the balloon with any gas?
No. So the only source of gas is for the fire. So you don't have helium gas or any other gas.
So is there no way for you to control the direction that we go into?
No, not so much. So because we follow the wind, so we always look at things like, you see the smoke, so we know what direction it is at that altitude. But of course, we look at the forecast and we've got a pretty good idea of where the wind blows in the morning. In Malaysia, it's very common that in the morning, the wind blows to the west.
Yeah, so what if for some reason the wind started changing direction?
That's why we play with altitude. So at different altitude, the wind blows at a different direction. The more altitude we have, then the more navigation we can do. Yeah, there will be more steering for us. So we can control how fast we go up and down and which level we want to stay at.
So if you know like the landing patch is that way.
Exactly. So we will try our best to go that way.
How high can you bring the hot air balloon up to?
We can go up to even 15,000, 20,000, but it depends on your burner as well because you need oxygen. So if you are planning to do high altitude flight, there needs to be a special burner.
Can you walk me through some of this technology that you have here? What are the gauges for?
Okay, so this is a barometer that shows us how high we're flying. And then you've got this that shows us the map. So usually you want to see where the wind takes you. So this gives you direction and then where you're heading. And then sometimes there's building and I can't see whether there's any places for us to land. So you refer to the map.
So I noticed you have a switch to turn on the flame, right? And that makes us go higher, is that right?
Yes. The whole idea is the hot air inside the balloon is lighter than the air outside. So that is why we fly in the morning. Because when the temperature is low, the air is dense. But then inside, the air is lighter. So the more you heat, it gets lighter and lighter and lighter.
How do you coordinate with Izzati while she's up in the air?
So how we track the balloon is by visual. We have a team that's on ground, so we use WhatsApp live location and also we use walkie-talkie so we can communicate directly with the pilot.
But isn't it tough because it's so unpredictable and you're on road, right? Like up in the air you can practically go any direction, but on the road you can only go where the road takes you.
So that's why we only fly at an area where we are familiar with. It is difficult, but that's why we need to have Google Maps so we see their live location where it's heading so that we know if it's going to the west, where would she end up in. If you're flying, you know you have good crew when the crew arrives even before the pilot arrives because they can already estimate where the wind direction is so they can find roads that would lead to the possible destination.
For hot air balloon, it's very common that we fly during sunrise and sunset because the wind is calm. And then also in the evening, we can do an evening flight. However, it's 50% chance of raining. And also the wind is usually much stronger when you land. And also you run the risk of, if you don't land in time, that it's going to be dark and you don't have enough light when you want to make a landing.
What's the time that you normally wake up to set up for your flights?
Our call time, it means that we need to see everyone and meet at 5:30 a.m. here. Whatever it is, we need to be there 1 hour before the sunrise. Because our duration for us to fly is very short because after that it's really hot and then you start losing control of the balloon because there's thermal activity on the ground. It means that even if you burn, you might not be able to push your balloon up because of wind condition on the ground.
One thing I noticed today too when we were packing up was the weight of the envelope. I mean, when it's up in the air, it looks very light, but when we were trying to pick it up, it was actually pretty heavy.
It depends also on the size. Like what we have today, or what we flew today was 105,000 cubic feet. That's the volume of the balloon. That is about 70 to 90 kilos.
What material is that envelope or that balloon made out of?
So the one that we flew today is ripstop nylon. It's something very similar with a normal parachute, but this one can retain heat better.
Now, one thing before we move
move on, how come we don't pack parachutes when we go on flights?
We do because for us, the balloon itself is a parachute. And then the next question you should ask, when you go on a plane, do they give you a parachute?
I mean, true, they don't.
They don't, because how do you know how to use a parachute when you
they
jump
don't.
off? Because for you to even jump off a balloon with a parachute, you would need training for that as well.
Oh, lunch. So lunch break is all about figures. So what is the career progression like for a hot air balloon pilot?
It's like driving license. So first you start with a student pilot for you to do 16 hours, and after that you go on to fly up to 50 hours, and then you can start flying commercially. And then after 100 hours, then you progress to bigger balloons. So every 100 hours you get to upgrade your license to piloting bigger balloons.
What about the salary progression? What's that like?
It depends on how many passenger basket are you flying. It can differ from one company to another. So the smaller balloon you'll get less, and the bigger balloon you get more. So per flight you can earn between 100 USD for the small balloon, and then you can go up to 200 or 300 USD per flight for the bigger balloon. So a month, it depends on how many flights you're doing. So you can't really put a fixed amount.
So what are some of the common issues that you face while you fly, and how do you avoid making those mistakes?
When we were flying just now, you realize that we really cannot tell where we want to land. Once we go in the air, we can sort of gauge where we're heading, and then from there, then you can look at areas where we plan to land. When you find a place to land, you can't look at that place and say, okay, I'm going to land there. When you choose, you gotta, okay, there, and if I miss this, I've got that one. If I miss this, I've got that one. So you always have plan B, plan C, plan D, because anything can happen when you reach ground level, the wind will blow a different direction.
Since you mentioned landing spots, right? How exactly do you pick a good landing spot?
One, it's big enough for us to put down the balloon. Second, there's no obstruction like street lamp or trees. And very importantly is access of the retrieval car. But whatever it is, the most important thing, whether there's access or not, you just want to land safely.
Are there any mishaps or any injuries that a pilot could sustain while they're up there?
Yes, especially during landing. They can't hold on to anything because they're holding the ropes. If you're flying the big balloon, they usually restrain themselves to the floor. There's a hook that goes around your waist so that if it's a rough landing, that the pilot doesn't get thrown out of the basket.
I'm sure you've been in some terrifying situations while flying. Could you share some of those experiences?
It is very terrifying, especially when you are landing and the wind picks up, so you know you're going to have a rough landing. And then when you land, you've got to check that there's no power line, because when you land, you know you're going to drag. That's very scary when you are at a congested area and then you've got to make a landing as soon as possible, so your gas is going to finish, or you run out of gas and you are over water. That happened to us when we were doing our training, and then the area that we were supposed to land, there was no wind and we were on top of a river. By the time we landed, our gas 0-0.
Let's talk a bit about the career, right? So how does one become a hot air balloon pilot?
There's no balloon school at the moment, but we are literally working on that. But at the moment, we have to go elsewhere. We get a group and then we call an instructor to train everyone. You want to inflate, take off, it's easy. But in order for you to land, that's the tricky part.
Okay. So where's the closest place that somebody can go to get their license?
We did ours in Spain. There's one in Italy. Thailand, if I'm not mistaken, they had. But I don't know whether they still offers balloon training.
Okay, so apart from the cost of getting your license, what's the cost to own or to buy the equipment you need to fly? Like the balloon today, for example, what would that cost me?
It can cost you between 150,000 to 200,000. And if you want to go all out and have a full artwork, it can go really high as well.
So if people wanted to find out more about what you do and your company, where can they go to find out more information?
So you can check us out at our website www.myballoonadventure.com, and also our Facebook and Instagram, My Balloon Adventure.
Alright guys, so that's all we have for today's episodes. I had such a great time up in the skies today. Be sure to follow all our socials, subscribe to our YouTube, follow our Facebook and also our Instagram account. Also check out our previous episodes where my lucky co-host Jay got to go to a shooting range. Be sure to watch that episode to see what he got up to there. For now though, my name is Daryl Baptist. This is me clocking out. Oh Lord.